and the composite index varies from plus 40 to minus 0.40. The value of composite index above 0.40 is named as relatively developed. There is not any of the block I have considered as a developed, because I have only given the name as a relative developed. Means there is a comparatively these six blocks are relatively developed. That is Nogam, Malhera, Lundi, Ajaygarh, Rajnagar, and Rahatgarh. Then second is moderately developed. There are 14 blocks in the steady region that names are given in front of the shown in the slide, and there is less developed regions. There are 12 blocks, that is Bhayandar, Jabera, Gorihar, Malthon, Jatara, Hatta, Panna, Sagar, Shergarh, all the things. And last one is the least developed, that is 8 blocks. And the map shown here is in dark color. The blocks are shown that in northern side, the block like Lundi, Nogam, and all the areas that are comparatively plain surface and having better infrastructure, other infrastructure facilities, marked as a relatively developed blocks. And to identify the most significant indicators among the 12 indicators I have taken, I have used the composite principal component analysis to identify the significant variable affecting the status of socio-infrastructure development. Factor analysis is applied for the testing of adequacy of the result of development. For this purpose, KMO and Bartlett test have been used. These tests have been used to find out the most effective variables among the large number of variables. After the using the KMO and Bartlett test, I have find out that there are 5 indicators among the 12 indicators that are more dominant and more significant in reference to the regional disparity in socio-economic, socio-infrastructure development. The above mentioned correlation, these
Doctor,
5 variables, six.
Please wind up in 2 to 3 minutes.
Yeah. This is I know. Have been extracted as a most dominant effect on the result of the composite index analysis, with the marginal loss of 28.138. The indicators means only if I have included all the indicators and the remaining indicators I can remove, then there is only the result will be vary from 28%. So the main indicators in this concern are these 5 indicators. These are the principal indicators of socio-cultural development in this analysis of Bundelkhand region. And the conclusion is the preceding analysis reveals that there are widespread regional disparity in the level of socio-infrastructure development in the study region. The study reveals that about 50% of blocks means there is 81% area and 56% of the population fall in the category of backwardness by the recording low and very low level of socio-infrastructure development. On the other hand, only 15% blocks means around 6 blocks, है ना? So 6 blocks, 6% of area and 12% of the population fall in the category of relatively developed areas. And this research is milestone document for the formation of planning procedure, because the analysis of micro level spatial variation in the level of socio infrastructure development, mapping the topology of social infrastructure backwardness, and finding the grassroots cause for the particular micro-regional disparities and backwardness. And thanks.
Thank you, Dr. P.K. Sharma, for a valuable insight in terms of giving an idea about the existing scenario in this part of the country.
Yes, thank you.
I think it was a good presentation that way. Before further, if there are any specific observations or comments by the participants there, so kindly unmute and have a very brief and precise query, if any. I think there are not many. If I'm correct, there is no response on that side.
Thank you.
I just want to know just one observation I can say. Very learned colleague you are. See, as far as this assessment of these regional disparities over a period of time, I don't contest the methodology at all. It's very well set methodology as such. But personally, over a period of time, I also see the methodologies being used now. Now, if I'm correct, the source of data is the secondary data, most of the data,
Yes,
if I'm correct.
Sir.
So because you can't actually have the data sets in such a way as such, and then mostly we are relying on the secondary source data. As I said, the methodology is very well concrete methodology, but I believe that over a period of time, we have to come out of these things. See, the data set which is there is of around, say, if it's of 2011 census, so you can understand it, they giving an idea. And we have been often debating in our course of action in terms of the geography and other forms, that whether you are talking about a 10-year-old data set. So I think we have to come out of these things. The scholars, more specifically, the scholars have to come up the other sources of data, wherever it is possible to have the other source in terms of the remote sensing data or any other data, ancillary data in terms of conducting the surveys and other things. I think that will give a much better picture in comparison to what we are doing it after, say, 10 years old data in terms of the secondary source data, whether it is census and other things. So that these studies actually, what I have perceived over a period of time, they become redundant by the time they actually are put on ground. So I think I would have not reacted to this if it would have been presented the other way by a scholar. But I think there's a larger role of the supervisors and the teachers, since you happen to be one, so that we have to carry it in a different way in the future, that the scholars are supposed to have the data set, which is the new one in terms of the making it up. Nevertheless, but it's a good study, giving an idea so that on the ground, I maybe in terms of that, going slightly extra mile by seeing that the most of these studies remain in the cupboards, except that we actually get a PhD or a MPhil. But what actually it carries, it has to be utilized on the ground by the people who actually make it. But I do understand it in the whole of the country, actually, that has not been taken. And at times, I've been very harsh on this fact that they consider it as an academic discourse, which is not there. A scholar putting a huge amount of time and investing in it, but it actually has to be on the ground. I suppose this was just a one observation. If Dr. Soni has anything more to add to it, because we can afford to talk to our colleague in terms of these, because that will ultimately lead to a good output of the research. Dr. Soni, if you can have any.
No, it's fine. Whatever you have said, that I agree with that. But for making an analysis at a small regional level about the disparities within that. So it is, though we don't have any other reliable source other than census for the population, but yes, I think the data related pertaining to the infrastructure, they might be, this new one. So because there is a club between the data from the statistical abstracts published by the government sources as well as the census. So I think that it is a sort of it's a mixing of data from various sources when the scholar has developed the indexes or the indices, right? Thank you, Dr. Pawan. Thank you very much. And now we are moving to the next presenter. That is Anamika Dubey. Anamika, you have only 8 minutes in total.
Okay, sir. I would like to share my screen.
Sure.
Sir, is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Greetings, everyone. This is Anamika Dubey from Indraprastha College for Women, University of Delhi. Under the broader theme of regional planning and development, my topic for today's presentation is measuring the relative backwardness in Uttarakhand and planning for backward region. The content of the presentation includes all these things. Backwardness is a relative concept. It is analyzed in comparison to other regions or with some benchmark such as state average. The relative backwardness of regions results into regional imbalance, which has always given birth to campaign and discontent. But the problem of regional imbalance has its solution in regional planning, which involves a strategy to deal with the problems of multi-level spatial units simultaneously and bring out a plan for maximum utilization of resources without causing any wastage. Thus, regionalization has to play a crucial role to achieve the best possible use of space. The study area is Uttarakhand, which lies between 28 degree 43 minute north to 31 degree 27 minute north latitude and 77 degree 34 minute east to 81 degree longitude. The state was formed to address the challenges of uneven development of the hill areas, argued to be lagging behind the plain areas of undivided Uttar Pradesh. In terms of economic progress, Uttarakhand is doing better than its neighboring states and all India average. During the 2000 to 2012, state domestic product of Uttarakhand has increased at a growth rate of 11.6%, which is higher than the all India level. However, even after achieving significant improvement in the aggregate economic growth of the state, the rural-urban disparity is so high that the average standard of living in urban areas is more than twice higher than the rural population, as shown by the Verma and Tiwari in 2017, the work by them. The objective of the paper include the first objective is to find out the regional imbalance in Uttarakhand through composite index method. Second is to compare the Niti Aayog list of aspirational district with the result of authors classification. Third one is to explore the developmental programs and assess their current status. And lastly, to apply the various theories of regional planning in backward regions of Uttarakhand. The database and methodology are as soon the data source is purely secondary in nature, involving census handbook, newspaper article, literatures, and government reports like Niti Aayog and all. The methodology is mixed, quantitative and qualitative in nature. Quantitative approach involves applying composite index, and qualitative is analyzing report and theories. Moving towards our first objective. Okay. So the parameters chosen for the study are following. 9 parameters have been chosen: percentage of household having toilet facilities, LPG connection, tap water from treated source, permanent household, banking facilities, closed areas, laptop and internet, mobile and telephone. Now this is the data table for indicators chosen. The district has been ranked accordingly in descending order as shown in red color. It can be seen that the data that the most of the districts are doing poor in indicators like toilet facilities, LPG connections, tap water from treated source and closed drainage. After assessing the rank of the district, all the 9 districts are added up to get a sum, and then sum was divided by 9 to get the average rank. The average rank has been further grouped into 4 intervals from high development, medium development, low development, and very low development. The result of the classification of the district is mapped through as shown in the figure. It can be observed that the high level of development as categorized as 3 to 5 is shown in 2 districts, Dehradun and Nainital. The district following medium level of development are Rudraprayag, Tehri Garhwal, Pauri Garhwal, Haridwar. The 5 districts found to have fallen in low development are Uttarkashi, Chamoli, Almora, Pithoragarh, Udham Singh Nagar. The 2 most backward districts of Uttarakhand through this method are Champawat and Bageshwar. Now moving towards our second objective, that is to compare the Niti Aayog list of aspirational district with the author's result of classification. Before doing that, let us look at the indicators taken by the Niti Aayog. It was decided after much consultation that the baseline ranking for 115 aspirational districts would be based on the composite index ranking 49 indicators across 5 sectors that include health, nutrition of 30% weightage, education of 30%, financial inclusion and skill development of 10%, and basic infrastructure of 10% weightage. As it can be seen that there are 2 districts of Uttarakhand which fall in the aspirational district by Niti Aayog, namely Haridwar and Udham Singh Nagar. Udham Singh Nagar got rank 6 with total score of 46.36%, and Haridwar is ranked 24. However, as shown in the table on the right hand side, the 2 most backward districts by the author's classification were Champawat and Bageshwar. The difference in the result between the Niti Aayog and the author's classification is due to the number and the types of parameters. The report published in 2006 by Ministry of Panchayati Raj states that Champawat is one of the 250 most backward district. The district is currently receiving fund from the backward region grant fund. So there is a need of inclusion of Champawat in the 115 aspirational districts even now as well. An assessment of the aspirational district through competitive index 2020 shows that Uttarakhand fall in blue zone indicating upward progress. This means that the average progress score of the state increased from 50% to almost 68% in 2020. Now moving towards the third object, that is to explore the various schemes and programs. First scheme is Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana for LPG connection to 5 crore women belonging to below poverty line. Objective is to provide clean cooking fuel solution to poor household in rural areas. This scheme got implemented on 9 June 2016 in Uttarakhand. There are 3.72 lakh connections across 13 districts of Uttarakhand. An evaluation of the implementation as shown in the newspaper clipping. Over 99% of the Ujjwala scheme cylinders failed to get refilled in Uttarakhand, which indicates that this scheme has almost, we can say, it has been failed in the state. Reasons behind such an abysmal rate of the refill are cited as spiking rates of LPG cylinders, non-availability of centers for the refill, lack of delivery person, and due to rough and hilly terrain, it is the connection is a little late. The maximum connection holders are in Haridwar with 1.09 lakh holders, followed by Udham Singh Nagar. Out of this, only 3,500 connections were applied for regular fill on a regular basis, informed by Indian Oil Corporation official. A report by Forest Survey of India in December 2019 revealed that Uttarakhand had still uses 4,076 tons of firewood annually as a fuel for the purpose of cooking. Thus, there is a need of micro-level planning for east districts of Uttarakhand to reduce the imbalances prevalent in LPG connection and the refilling status in order to Uttarakhand shine as a whole. Second scheme is Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, which aimed at open defecation free in rural areas during 2014 to 2019 through the mass scale behavior change, construction of household owned and community based toilet. Uttarakhand was declared open defecation free on 22 June 2017, but there are still more than 66,000 houses in the state that do not have toilet. An RTI query has revealed this, as shown in the newspaper clipping. Significantly, this report by Comptroller and Auditor General of India has also said that the ODF status was incorrect. The Uttarakhand Urban Development Department in 2019 said that there are 3,302 toilets needed in Champawat, 5,000 in Pauri, and as followed. And there are also 1,335 public toilets are needed. This highlights the very poor condition of Udham Singh Nagar, followed by Haridwar.
Anamika, please wind up with it.
Okay, sir. Okay, now coming to Jal Jeevan Mission, which was launched in to provide the safe water, but this could be proved as a life changes in the state. So the state has allocated 574 crore under the 15th commission grant to be utilized for safe drinking water. Now coming to the fourth last scheme is Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana for bank accounts and all. So Uttarakhand is disaster prone state, so there is a very much need of this bank account in order to manage the disaster. Now coming to the last objective, to apply various regional planning theories in backward region. Moving towards our last objective, as seen earlier, the lack of economic opportunity and welfare scheme in Hill district has further aggravated the developmental disparities in the state. Thus, the solution of such disparities lies in the combination of growth pole theory, growth foci, and village cluster model. The theory of growth pole states that the economic development is not uniform over entire region. As in this case, we can see that the core developed area of the Uttarakhand are Nainital and Dehradun. The deplorable condition of rural areas indicate that the spread effect has not been sufficient to accelerate the development of the hinterland. Efforts should be made to decentralize the planning and development process. Being a developing state, the growth center should not be only concentrated around industrial development. Thus, the growth foci theory proposed by R.P. Mishra comes into play. He has emphasized the 5-tier strategy of central village, service center, growth points, growth center, and growth pole. Delineating the region likewise will make possible to focus on the smallest level and allow the development of each hierarchy simultaneously. Another theory which can be applied a holistic development in rural areas, village cluster theory by R.P. Mishra and K.V. Sundaram, clustering of villages for planning and development. Given the small size of single village, clustering of villages for planning has been suggested. The planning intervention in the cluster through the development of nodes, flow of connectivity, interaction will help to bridge the gap and the provision of urban amenities in rural areas. So thus the devolution of power and planning and impetus is needed to start the development of non-form activities in the state. And lastly, Strengthen the locally embedded development process to induce the competitiveness among themselves and curtailing of regional disparities. These are the references. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Anamika, for an elaborated and very confident presentation, I should say. It was indeed a very in-depth study with a valid data sets and, of course, a good methodology that way. I, again, don't know whether you are a scholar. If you are a scholar, are you a scholar?
I am a student, sir, graduation student.
Okay, that's what, same day. It's commendable. You are doing geography?
Yes, sir, from University of Delhi, IP College.
IP College, oh, okay. So, in what connection you conducted this study?
Actually, this semester we have a paper called Regional Planning and Development. So there, our teacher suggested this methodology to do an assignment. So all the students were divided into various states, their block level development. So my study area was Uttarakhand. So I planned to present this paper on this platform.
Indeed, very commendable. I must say, really, it's appreciable that the way you put it. So as a graduate, I hope that in the future also you'll be contributing in a much better way.
Yes,
I again don't know whether there are any observations or any kind of. I think that I'll be requesting all of you to have, if they have any suggestion rather, because I can understand a graduate student, but I do understand at the same time a student from IP College has to be come to that terms. But I do appreciate the way. If there are any observations or suggestions or queries for that matter.
The only small observation I'll put here. Thank you, Anamika, for a very nice presentation, and we are hopeful that you will become a very good researcher and a teacher in coming future. The only suggestion is that regarding to your composite index, because I have seen variables there which are with dealing with the household as well as dealing with individuals and the community. So please be careful and this look the methodology again and see the parity among the data, right? So because it is not a time to discuss every data in a very this large manner. So but I have seen some sort of discrepancy there, so please go through that, and if there is any, then please remove and make the paper for the publication.
Okay, sir.
Congratulations again.
Thank you, sir. I would try to include your suggestion.
Dear Chairperson, we can move on the next presenter.
Yeah, if there are any more queries, I suppose we can go for the next one. I didn't think. Okay, we can have another presentation.
Yeah. Now I request Sugandh, and Sugandh is going to present on a narrative on the illustrations of marriage migration in India. Sugandh, you have only 8 minutes, right? Okay. So please take care of time.
Sure, sir. So can you see my screen?
Yes, it's coming. Yeah, it has come.
Okay. I am Sugandh, a research scholar at Department of Geography, Banaras Hindu University. And today I'm going to present on the topic, a narrative on the illustrations of marriage migration in India. Migration is defined as the change of usual place of residence. But when we talk about marriage migration, it is always included in the macro data in India, but it is less studied as compared to general migration in India. People tend to focus more on the economic aspect of migration that leads to labor male migration rather than the social aspect, that is marriage migration. Each year, approximately 20 million women in India move to live with their husbands, and this leads to marriage migration within the data on migration reveals marriage is one of the most important reason for migration, and it is largest form of migration within the country, especially in the rural area of the country. The objective of the study is to study the nature and extent of marriage migration in India, to understand the trends and patterns of marriage migration in India, and to examine the gendered perspectives in marriage migration. Although there are significant regional differences in most parts of India, however, data and information has been retrieved from National Sample Survey Organization and census of various years. While each source illuminates different portions, I have tried to amalgamate secondary literature and different sources and present the concept of marriage migration in this paper. Uh, Marriage migration in India is mostly determined by the principle of territorial exogamy, that is followed by the Gotra exogamy and village exogamy in different parts of North India, and also exogamy, cross cousin migration in South Indian states. As observed by different census, we find that in case of interstate migration and intrastate migration, rural to rural migration stream is one of the most common migration stream for females. This is the diagrammatic representation of marriage migration. First is the VD local residence of a woman, that is the place where she was born. From there, mate selection happens and then marriage happens, that ultimately leads to marriage migration. And from there, she moves to conjugal residence, that leads to population redistribution in the place of origin and place of destination. The nature and extent of marriage migration. Although there are significant regional differences, most of India practices some form of local village exogamy. That is, a woman leaves her natal home and moves to her husband's place. And because of this, almost 3/4 of women in India migrate from her place of birth. These are the two data from 2001 and 11, which shows that marriage is one of the most important cause of migration in India. The trend and pattern of marriage migration in India. Marriage migration varies substantially across the country. The figure shows the frequency of marriage migration as measured by NSS. In terms of regional variation, data reveals that marriage migration is 95% in the North Indian states, while it's nearly 60% in South Indian states and negligible in the Northeastern states. It is around 95% in UP and Rajasthan, 91% in Punjab, 93% in Gujarat, MP, and in Maharashtra, Odisha, and Chhattisgarh, it is around 85%. While in the south, we find that only it's 62% in Kerala and 50% in Tamil Nadu. Marriage migration is 80% in West Bengal, but when we move towards the northeast, we find that it is nearly 30% in the northeastern states. And the stream of marriage migration in India. The NSS data helps us to understand the direction and stream of marriage migration within the state in different states over the period of different years. However, the cross-state migration sees that there is very little change over the female migrate very less to different state. They normally migrate within the state or within the district itself. So given the interstate language and custom differences in India, it is not surprising that migration to a different state has not increased. The importance of gender in migration. Marriage migration is highly gender specific because it's mostly that marriage migration happens by the women, and very few or negligible amount of marriage migration happens by the men. So we find that there is an increase in female migration rates, and that is responsible for the skewness of the migration data in the country also, especially in terms of female. The general study of migration tends to focus heavily on economic aspect, and that is why in literature also this marriage migration from the women has been ignored a lot. So the importance of marriage migration and female migration makes it essential to study women migration, and gender differences in migration is also important. This is the cingulate mean age at marriage. United Nations had defined cingulate mean age at marriage as the average length of single life expressed in years among those who marry before 50. So basically those people who come under the category of currently married, and the age of theirs is calculated, and on the basis of that cingulate mean age at marriage is found out. So this is the graph of cingulate mean age at marriage from 1901 to 2001. This shows that there has been an increasing trajectories over the years. This is cingulate mean age at marriage, the difference of male and female in different states. Finally, I would like to say that marriage migration is one of the most less studied concept in terms of migration in the country. The joint marriage and migration decision is central event of young women's life. And this paper is an attempt to examine the extent of marriage migration in India. To explain the regional differences of marriage migration, I have used trends and pattern over the years and singulate mean age at marriage. And finally, I would like to say that there are still much scope to understand marriage migration in the country. Uh, and this paper was just attempt to understand it from my side. Thank you, sir.
Good, Sugan, for providing. And I think it's a very, very important area of research that way to understand these aspects. Very interesting area. In fact, very interesting for me also. You referred to some of the data sets with regard to different parts.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell me why in the Northeast it's less, the marriage migration? Why Northeast is a certain kind of issue?
Sir, because the village exogamy concept is not prevailing in that region. Because in the North India, it is common because Gotra exogamy and village exogamy prevails, while in Northeast it does not prevail.
Anything else?
So, and I
Is this a topic related to your PhD or it's just a paper?
No, sir, it is actually I'm working on Bihar's marriage migration. So you know Mithila region?
So, yes. So
Yes,
that
I'm
means
working on
this is your research area.
Yes,
This is
sir,
your
yes.
research area. This is not just an. See, in the Northeast as such, you know, one, I would like that at least in your study, somewhere you will be able to trace that what was the reason of this, the females leaving their home. It's throughout the world as such. I have been
Yes,
often,
sir, yes,
because
sir,
I have been
throughout the
teaching
world.
this paper for last 20 years or so.
Mm.
So every time, and then I do quote this example of Northeast. You know, in Northeast, it is the female in most of these tribal societies, the male has to leave from the home. Do you know this?
Yes, sir, I have heard about it.
Yeah, you need to study this. Then the other aspect is the younger daughter owns the property there. This again is there.
Okay.
It's the male who has to move out of the house, like in case of the North India or the most part of the world, that I can say, that it's the female who leaves for even at the time of the marriage of their ancestral home. In the North is the reverse. And then the youngest daughter owns the property. You know, these all will be something which will crop up. But there is a social context in this whole process. You referred that in South, the cousin marriage, है ना?
Yes, cross
कहीं
cousin.
सुना है? उत्तर में मांस खाना और दक्षिण में मामा की लड़की से शादी करना, ये it's permissible under the Hindu say mythology or whatever. Because I don't know whether you know this, that in the Kashmiri Pandits, being the Brahmins also, but they do take non-veg.
Yes, sir, yes.
So these all things, when I see in the context, they have a context of the social aspects. Of course, there in terms of the geography, I'll contest this, that because the Kashmiri Pandits are taking the non-veg because of the weather there. But at the end of the day, the social context has a larger role to see to it. So I think in your research, I hope that in the broader perspective, you will see, and then how over a period of time it has changed, like you referred in terms of Kerala also. So kindly come up with certain things which actually, apart from the data sets, which you actually see the inquisitive in terms of the operational part of it. And then I think in the short-term migrations, as far as the marriage is concerned, this is for the whole world. Throughout the world, if you find that the females are the most migrants in terms of the short-term migrations. So kindly, this is just in order to see that since you are working on there, they ask you that it's your research area. So I think that you need to probe into more detailed way and try to connect these things with the social aspects, right? This was just a cursory aspect. Sure. If there is anything more, or Dr. Soni has something to put it, or any other presenter has to say or add to it.
See, it's good that a research scholar is going and planning to go in depth in such a pertaining issue. Though we cannot say that work has not been done in this area. We have many research work in this area, and at the same time, as the chairperson suggested about the Northeast, when we are taking the example from the Northeast and the South India and comparing with the North India, we have to have this notion also in our mind that the educational level of female is very important here, and at the same time their economic engagement is also playing a very important role, because many of the times their migration is because of the employment, and and in that stream only they are marrying, and the prominent the cause of migration comes their employment or their education. So we have to take care of all these things when we are dealing with migration. Thank you, Sugan. Thank you very
Sure.
much. And with due permission of chairperson, we are moving to the next presenter. I think there is no any other observation from the floor. Okay, we are moving to the another this presentation. That is Olandevaju Level. She is very much here, I think.
Yes,
Okay,
I'm
he
here.
is there. Okay. So he's going to present on this geographical hierarchy of local government areas in Nigeria, implications for sustainable development. Please go ahead. You have 8 minutes.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. It's really a pleasure and a privilege to join you here today. And I've been learning a lot about India now. So I will give you a little bit also about Nigeria. So my name once again is Dr. Lanrewa Ajilowa. I'm from the Department of Geography and Environment Management at the Faculty of Social Sciences at the University of Port Harcourt. So I want to give give a presentation about geographical hierarchy at the local government level in Nigeria, and what does this have, what role is this likely to play in sustainable development. So if we look at any natural and human coordinated event, we'll realize that there is always a structure. Essentially, what that implies is that there is an hierarchy over time and in space. So this gives us an idea that there's a confirmation of the Pareto principle and the scaling law in most of the things we see in life. Either it's natural or it's man-made. There is always a structure to it. And the understanding of this structure and the dynamics of this structure can help us to really know how to plan and develop places in a sustainable way. We know location plays an important role in human activities and habitation. So this plays a role in businesses, in the location of industries, and also most of the time creates segregation and a kind of structure that makes similar people want to live in certain places, and people who are not like those people want to live in another place. And these has also been characterized in what Professor Milder called the multiplier effect, in which we can see the evolution of social systems across human settlements, in which the poorer areas get poorer and the richer area gets richer. Essentially, the socioeconomic system is a self-reinforcing system whereby we have a complex system which drains certain areas of resources and to enrich other areas. So this brings to the fore that there is a need to understand how this plays and how we can stem the direction of this flow and actually help so that we have a kind of balanced growth. So in government agencies and government institutions in Nigeria, there is usually this dichotomy of the rural local government and urban local government. So with this dichotomy, the flow of resources and projects also go in the same direction. So the aim of this work is to now look carefully what is the geographical hierarchy created by social and economic attributes of the local authority, with the intention of using these to convince decision makers that there is need to go beyond the dichotomies that we always adopt. Nigeria is the most populous African nation, standing at about 200 million people, with over 250 ethnic groups, and 36 states with the federal capital territory. Is divided into 774 local government areas, and the states, the 36 states and the FCT are further divided or grouped into 6 geopolitical zones. So how did we go about doing this work? We look at population data, road network data, and local boundary data, which are established from the Nigeria Bureau of Statistics. So from these, we carried out rank search plots to look at how the different variables are distributed in ranks, and then distributed statistics were executed on to explore the data, while the head-tail break cluster algorithm was used to understand the hierarchy formed by these selected variables. So let's look at some of the results. Just like it is expected, we realize that if we look at the population, the area or the surface area covered by each of the local government, the population density as well as the road density, well, it is evident from this chart that they follow the Siev's law, okay, or the scaling law, which means they are heavily skewed. They have a very heavy tail distribution. Clearly, it means that putting all these local government into just two classes is not adequate. There is a self-organization or hierarchy in the distribution, as we can see from this rank size distribution. So clearly, this is evident that two classes is not adequate if we want to develop in an equitable or in a sustainable way. Then let's look at the natural hierarchy that are formed. For these, we use the head-tail break algorithm. So, which means we want to find the natural classifications within the attributes that we are interested in. So, if we look at population, we realize that there are about 3 classes. Okay. There are about 6 classes rather. Sorry about that. There are 6 classes. So the usual rule of thumb is that we'll think of urban and rural local governments in terms of population. But now, looking at the natural classification within the data, so we are letting the data do the talking now. So we realize that there are 6 classes and there is a spectrum. So which means if we want to look at local government from the point of view of population, we need to look at about 6 natural classes. If we look at the land area and the land mass, we see that this becomes obvious. This is just to show what it means when we look at the hierarchy from data. So for these also, we look at 5, we realize that from the head and tail break, there are 5 classes, okay, spread across different parts of the country, but there are more in the middle belt than in the southern part and in the north central part of the country. So this shows that 2 classes does not do it. Then we also look at population density. That also shows that if we combine area and the population, we have 4 natural classifications rather. So that also shows that 2 classification does not do it. If we want to move to equitable development and more balanced development, we have to look at natural classification, not just the dichotomous classification that we often use of rural and urban. So we look also at road density, because road and accessibility is also a mean of showing how developed a place is. So we look at road density, and from road density also, we found that there are 3 different classes, again showing that we have more than just 2 classes of local governments. So from all of this, what does this mean in terms of development? In the country, it seems that the issue or the classification.
Mr. Olan, we have 1 more minute.
Okay, the classification of rural and urban is very ingrained, and there is need to change that. So our proposition here is that we should move to classification that is supported by available data. And if we move away from this, we have a way, at least we have a solution or a potential to stop the dualism in development and move on to a kind of balanced regional development. So that is what we are proposing by looking at the hierarchy and looking for natural classification. So in order to change the structure of development and have a more balanced development, we need to move away from dichotomous classification and move to a more natural classification within the local government structure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Olan Rijwal Lawal, if I pronounced it correctly, for giving us an idea about the rural-urban dichotomy. I think it's a very, very, very debatable thing. And then in geography, rural-urban divide and rural-urban dichotomy has been a very, very much discussed. And I do appreciate that in that part of the world that you actually trying to analyze how the sustainable development can be taken for, apart from those debatable concepts of rural-urban. So rather than going by what you actually presented, I was really fascinated by your presentation of in terms of trying to catch up with the cartographic representations, which I think is a very, very good strength of the geographers for that matter, and trying to convey their points in. I would have been more than happy if we had a time and we could have discussed and debated your topic. So I'll be more happy if I'll try to get your contact details, and because it fascinated me that how in that part of the world you actually try to have whatever the little means in terms of the data sets and other things have, and trying to correlate it with the developmental aspect. If there are any points, because we are riding behind the schedule, if I'm correct, Dr. Soni can understand, and because we have still more presentations, and then they must be having other session also.
Thank you, Mr. Olan, for the nice presentation. The only submission is that we could have taken more indicators to differentiate between the rural and urban dichotomy. And though it is a reality, so definitely your suggestion is that we should move towards more balanced approach, and this is really appreciable. And in all researchers which are going for seeking the divide between the rural and urban areas are giving suggestions on similar lines. Now I'm requesting this Simran Purswani and Dr. Bhavana Bali. Please be stuck within 8 minutes. You have to complete your presentation, right?
As Dr. Soni referred it, I kindly avoid your introductory part of it. You can straight away go with your objectives, and then because at the end we are concerned how you actually do it and what is the conclusion, rather than going for the fluid for that matter.
Yeah.
Sure, sir. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is coming.
It's starting.
Okay, sir. Good afternoon, all. My paper is titled Role of Green Spaces in Promoting Resilience and Sustainability, a Case for Integrated Regional Development and Planning, co-authored by Dr. Bhavna Bali, Assistant Professor at TERI SAS. So, just in one line, that green spaces play a really major role in maintaining temperature and mediating air. And forests being one of the component of green spaces, they are responsible for 45% of carbon sink. And it was also studied that because of loss of green spaces, the urbanization, 60% of world urbanization, which is estimated to live in urban area by 2030, these all have contributed to loss of green spaces. And recently studied in by UNEP in 2019 that 60% of infectious diseases in humans and 75% of emerging infectious diseases are zoonotic. And this happens due to cutting of trees and clearing the forest land. And a world report says that 40% of world forest has already been lost. So it is in many folds that urbanization has affected the green spaces. The global initiatives, SDG goal 11, 13, and 15, they focus on making cities and resilient, inclusive, safe, combating the climate change, and restoring and protecting the sustainable ecosystem. So India has signed an agreement for to reduce the carbon emissions by 33 to 35% by 2030. So with this context, my project aim is to examine the existing status of green spaces, and it provides a narrative on their role of building resilience and sustainability in regional setting, with Delhi NCR as a case example. My methodology is it is based on secondary analysis, secondary data analysis, and global initiatives were studied for sustainable urban development, which helped in identifying my project and overviewing the urban issues and schemes to and how to manage the green spaces in India leads to the recognition of my study area, that is Delhi NCR. Then land use, land cover change, and existing status of different green spaces are assessed, and the findings from case studies and secondary data analysis form the part of my findings. Coming to the statutory provisions of green spaces, here is the list which actually helps in protecting and managing the green spaces. So first is Wildlife Protection Act in 1972, which protects the wild animals and birds and plants. Then Forest Conservation Act, which helps in protecting and safeguarding the forest and wildlife, and every citizen should be held responsible for protecting it. Then main is Environment Protection Act, to protect and improve human environment. Then 11th schedule and 12th schedule focus on they are very important for city region perspective. The lowest level of local self government at rural and urban settlements, the gram panchayats and urban local bodies respectively, they actually need to work in tandem to secure in green spaces. These 11th and 12th schedule include the land improvement, implementation of land reforms, and soil conservation, social forestry, farm forestry. So then comes the PESA Act, Biodiversity Act, and Forest Rights Act, which Forest Rights Act includes the unclassified forest, undemarcated forest, existing or deemed forest, protected forest, reserve forest. These all includes under the Forest Rights Act. Then coming to the policy and schemes to protect and conserve green spaces. The Amrut mission focus on increasing the green cover by 15% in 500 cities. Then pollution abatement scheme and hazardous substances management scheme focus on waste minimization and management. Then ecological restoration of terrains and soil conservation. Climate change action plan, which is under the National Action Plan on Climate Change, involves the capacity assessment to achieve sustainable development. National Adaptation Fund scheme, like agriculture, water, forestry, urban, coastal and low-lying area. Then mapping of to protect coastal environment. So these are the different schemes which are still going on to preserve and conserve green spaces. But actually what the status is, recently a parliamentary report also there was a parliamentary report which says that the MOEFCC has granted 3,226 projects. So the status from 2013 to 2018 revealed that 70,000 more than 70,000 hectares, 70,000 hectares to 239,000 hectares have been diverted from forest land to other land uses, and 1.2 million hectare of forest, which are rich in local and diverse species, will be replaced by monoculture plantation in 11 states. So these will this type of afforestation will definitely damage the wild food plants, and which are high in nutrition. Then monoculture plantations are over harvested sometimes due to high demand in market, and which will again lead to improper management and degradation. Then comes to let us focus on the status of green areas in India. There was a decline in forest cover by 80% from 20th century, and from 1990, when India Forest Policy came in 1988, there was a attempt to increase the forest cover, and which could lead to increase in few percentage, like 21.5% in 1992, 23.883% in 2016. But still in 2017, World Index report says that India is India is at 7%, which includes different assessment related to environmental degradation, then coping capacity, then adaptation, these all. So coping capacity was up to lacking, India lagged in coping capacity by 80%, followed by adaptive capacities by 57%, vulnerability by 58%, and susceptibility by 38%. So these are the evidences which shows that green spaces do help in coping capacities in the event of disasters by supplying fresh food or water. And then it is only possible if environment is healthy and intact. Then if we see to the different city regions of India, Western Ghat covers the 4.8% of India's geographical area, and it is also known as water tower of India, and it lacks in capability of retaining water due to different development, and recently Kerala floods of 2018 has also attributed to loss of green cover. Then Chennai has observed the increase in population from 70.4 lakhs to 99.6 lakh in 2016, and this compound the different fragile environment of Chennai metropolitan region. There are actually 3,700 water bodies in upstream of city region, which marks the natural drainage, and it's the catchment area, that is Buckingham Canal. That has also been demolished, or you can say that the area has been reduced by coming up of thermal power station. Then but the local drainage infrastructure that is inadequate, encroachment by real estate developers, and then recently developed IT corridor, these all have taken the wetlands and natural resource of Chennai at risk. And according to the analysis, the built up and paved areas have also increased from 29 to 64% in 2013. So together it became a reason of development induced disaster, which recently been observed also by in floods of 2005 and 2015. That was so worse that implementation of relief measures also failed. There was a the slum dwellers and people residing in peri-urban areas, they were also affected, and the outbreak of disease like malaria and cholera was also observed. Then similar was the case in IT hub, though the floods were not there, but because of the increase in population, and then the large canopy trees which in the center of the city, these were replaced by ornamental and exotic species. Short-lived trees, these they were replaced by these, and surely they do not provide the same range of environmental and ecological benefits. So reason of such disturbance is migration and urban sprawl, and then extensive expansion in irregular pattern leads to landscape fragmentation and transformation in land use pattern. So water bodies have also dried up due to encroachment and pollution, industrial effluents, and mismanagement due to overlapping jurisdictions. So such fragmentation of connectivity of green spaces and water bodies clearly indicate that the reason for increase in vulnerability in settlements. Coming to the Delhi NCR region, Delhi NCR with 9 districts of Haryana, 6 districts of Uttar Pradesh, and 1 district of Rajasthan covers the area of 34,144 square kilometer. And Delhi NCT being the nodal metropolis, largest agglomeration by 29 million, it has been projected that it will be most populous in the world by 2028. And you can see that Delhi is the most urbanized center by 97.5%, followed by Gurgaon, Faridabad, and Ghaziabad in whole of NCR region. There was a I'll now describe the land use and land cover change from 2000 to 2019. Since it was an agricultural dominant region since 2000 and with highest cultivated area in Haryana, 45% of forest land was destroyed by encroachment and deforestation and were converted into barren land up to 2000. Then there was to increase the forest cover in 2011, there was an increase, and it was 6.2% of geographical area. But from 6.2, actually it became 11% now. Currently, it is 11% as per the NCR Planning Board. And the increase in forest cover was not through that forest patches were planted, but there was the increase due to the plantation along the road, canals, highways. That was the reason of increasing the forest cover and tree cover. Then I've done the satellite imagery classification of forest green vegetation. You can clearly see from 2010 to 2019 that there is a heavy decrease in density of trees in Uttar Pradesh region and Rajasthan region. This clearly indicates that how deforestation has clearly vanished the green spaces, which has increased the risk. Currently, the existing hazards which already are in Delhi NCR, which are persisted in Delhi NCR, is waterlogging, shortage of drinking water, floods, and it is an earthquake-prone area also. Then this map, the left side, you can see the map. This shows the biodiversity and lakes in Delhi NCR, which is currently reserved. And other than these green spaces, that are not reserved. So the green and blue
Simran, please wind up. Your time is over.
Sure, sir. Lakes like Surajkund and Bhalswa, these are dried up. The development around lakes have been increased. These fragile ecosystems have been affected by human activities. So coming to these strategies, which should be the part of to increase the resilience and sustainability, is protecting the forest, demarcating the boundaries of unreserved forest, GIS and MIS database to monitor the forest work, then conserving the biodiversity. The development of highways have affected the wildlife habitats, and they have affected the wildlife habitats, and that can be reduced by GIS enabled data and assessing the connectivity of these wildlife habitats. Then tree cover outside the forest, the afforestation drives which have been proposed, that can restore the forest, but that should be outside the forest area, so that the social forestry and agroforestries are also promoted and forests are also reserved. Then conserving water bodies through involvement of community by rainwater harvesting, which are already destroyed in the Delhi NCR. Then e-governance, integrated planning, these can be done through environment management plan and setting up of committees, environment manager at all level involving public. And then e-governance could help in maintaining the transparency in planning process. Then capacity building, like awareness campaigns and education programs at city level, and awareness programs of staff and Gram Sabha should be facilitated. Then monitoring and evaluation, like open, transparent and web-based environment information system can be done, so that the modifications can help in facilitating the better management. Thank you.
Thank you, Simran, for the very exhaustive and elaborative presentation on green spaces as such. As I said, the time is a very big constraint for us. But I appreciate that you bringing out the certain components there. But I would have also been interested in if you could actually make use of the GIS and RS in terms of taking the existing data is very crucial. You referred to that from 2011, 6.2%, and then to 11%, until unless it's not, and we do have the mechanisms of getting it validated by the remote sensing data. And a 5% increase in the forest cover is a big thing. If you actually, in your further present, try to get it validated by the RS data, that will actually enhance, but not by any other source, like you referred some developmental agency of Delhi, and which complaining that 5%.
Actually, okay, sir, okay.
I think you need to look on those aspects, because those are not valid sources as such, because you do have a remote sensing data available for this, and then only also.
Actually,
the
sir, there was a
water table. Yes, water table you did not refer.
Jaldi batana, Peru.
So actually there was a contradictory document, like I actually did the land use classification, which actually shows there was a decrease by 19.6% in vegetation, if you can see here.
But that,
but there was an NCR planning board which says that up to 2011 they have increased 2 to 3% of forest and tree cover. So that was a kind of like contradictory.
As a researcher, you have to go with what you said referred in terms of the data, which actually exhibits that there is a decrease in this. Because at the end of the day, you are not supposed to respond to the developmental boards rather than to the editorial boards where you are going to make your presentations or submit your papers. Anyway, because of the time paucity, I cannot further go it. But I will issue that the water table and other things are very essential in terms of green spaces. Do take care of that. I hope that you are referring from a good institute in terms of having the facilities there. Dr. Soni, please.
Thank you, sir. The valuable observations are already made by you. And now, without wasting any time, I am just calling upon the next presenter, that is Dhanraj K. Dhanraj, finish your presentation within 8 minutes only. Dhanraj was very much here.
So let's go for the next one.
That is Mr. Kaluram Chauhan. Mr. Kaluram Chauhan. If they are not there, then respected chairperson, we have finished with the presentations. We had this 5 deliberations here. I'm just reiterating the names. The presenter were Anamika Dubey, Sugandha, then Olan Ravazul Lawal, then Dr. P.K. Sharma, then this Simran, this Purswani. So over to you.
Okay. I think the rest of the presenters, as you referred, I think they are not there. So I think we are within the scheduled time. I was really apprehensive about that. We have such a few more presentations, so it may stretch out and it may encroach upon this. Before that, I hand over to you for summing up these presentations, or from your point to conclude it. So I'll be taking I'm just handing over to you before my summing up this. So kindly sum up the presentations as well as the these deliberations.
Thank you, Dr. Samin Ahmed Shah, chairperson of this session. And today, in this session, we had 5 deliberations related to the regional development and planning from the various parts of India as well as the world. And the first presentation was from Dr. P.K. Sharma, and he talked about the regional disparities in social infrastructure development in Bundelkhand region. The presentation was on the basis of the secondary data, and he has used the composite index as well as the principal component analysis for showing the results, and this to take care of the idea about the imbalanced regional development in the Bundelkhand region. And then the presentation was from Anamika Dubey, and she has presented on measuring relative backwardness in Uttarakhand and planning for the backward regions, where she has taken a range of parameters to express his argument regarding the developmental differentials in various parts, as well as she has also compared the Uttarakhand region in terms of development with the rest of Indian averages. And then Sugandh presented on the narratives on the illustrations of marriage migration in India, and she has nicely presented the entire scenario of migration related to marriage, and have shown that there is a gap between the northeast and the South India, and also gave some suggestions and some reasons behind this. And then we had one presentation from Nigeria, where Mr. Olan presented on geographical hierarchy of local government in areas of Nigeria, where he has talked about the implication of sustainability in his presentation, as well as talked about the rural and urban dichotomy. Then this lastly, Simran Purswani and this Dr. Bhavna Bali's presentation was there, where Simran presented on the role of green spaces in pioneering, in promoting the resilience and sustainability, and she has taken a case for the integrated regional development and planning, where she has, discovered almost every area related to this, regarding the acts, the administrative the aspects of this, and obviously the aspect related to the sustainability. It was really indeed a very vibrant session, where we had a presentation from the various regions, from the various areas, with a very sound methodologies to put forward their argument, and to put forward their this concerns regarding to the areas in which they are putting their research and putting their efforts to come out with some new insights in the area of research. Thank you very much, and I thank Department of Geography, Mohanlal Sukhadia University, Udaipur, India, for giving me this opportunity.
So Dhanraj K has joined. He has
now. I'm very sorry that we have formally ended this session, so we can't allow now.
Oh.
Yeah. Hello, Dr. Soni?
Yes, sir.
I think you have completed?
Yes, sir. Yes, I have completed.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Soni, for having this complete analysis of the presentations there. In fact, I'm really happy that we had a very lively session. You intervened in terms of the different aspects of it, and you touched the different facets of the research being discussed or being talked about these themes. In fact, indeed, it was a pleasure to have such a vibrant and different presentations across different parts of India and from Nigeria also. I thank Dr. Soni, my co-chair, for making his presence felt, and also making interventions as and when, and also, in fact, coordinating the whole session for that matter, since we had not the moderator around here. In fact, we tried to wind up in the best possible time as such. I again put on record the thanks to the Department of Geography, Mohanlal Sukhadia University, Udaipur, for giving us a chance to interact on this platform as such. I thank the organizing committee, and I wish that in the future also, in the different deliberations and the different events, we will be actually meeting. With this, I conclude this session. I thank all the presenters. I thank the Dr. Soni particularly for making it a very elaborate and a very genuine and a decent session, if I can say so, because we had a very valid things as such, and hope to in the future also be there. Thank you very much. I think that the people who are around there are managing the technical part may end this meeting from this side. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your generous gestures.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Sumim, sir. Thank you, Soni, sir. Thank you so much for smooth conducting of the session. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone, and all participants. Congratulations to all participants from organizing team and behalf of Geography of Department, Mohanlal Sukhadia University. Thank you. Thank you to all.
Thank you, Dr. Chauhan.
Thank you, sir. Kaise hai, sir?
Me fine. How are you?
Sir, I am fine, sir. Thank you.
So we may leave now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you to all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hello.
Yes, and